Welcome to another edition of Coffee with the Goose, where we talk about things that are interesting, fascinating, and irritating. I am the Goose, and it's such a pleasure to chat with you again. We always try to come up with topics that are a little bit different, a little off the beaten path, but interesting nonetheless. We'll start, though, as we always do. This one, we never change this, right? Gotta have our caffeine. My coffee, as you know, very strong, just like my opinion. And got some creamer in there to make it sweet, just like me. Okay. Well, we've talked about everything under the sun, it seems, over the last couple of years during the show. A lot of politics, a little politics, a lot of boxing. We've talked a little religion, politics and religion, the things nobody wants to talk about. We'll talk about anything, right? And today it is politics. Filipino President Rodrigo Duterte, who I am a big admirer of, has put his foot down. And I'm going to say again, even though it really irritates some of you guys, he's a lot like Trump. He's a lot like Donald Trump. He cares about his country first and foremost, and he gets things done. And he says what he means, and he means what he says. He does not play around. And he's honest. And if you want to sit there and say, "Oh, Trump, you lied," no. I'm not going to get into American politics. Okay, just not going to do it. But I will say this: it's hilarious what's happening. It's great entertainment, but I'll leave it at that. But Duterte made an announcement in February that startled a few people. He announced that he is going to back out of the Visiting Forces Agreement with the United States. Now we've had that agreement in place since 1996, but of course, the United States and the Philippines have had arrangements since 1899. I can't remember what the year was. Forgive me, I got a cold here. But anyhow, it surprised a few people. What this Visiting Forces Agreement does is it allows the United States to come in with our armed forces and visit, not to stay, and help out the Filipino armed forces more often than not with their battle with the rebels in Mindanao, the Abu Sayyaf, and help protect the Philippines from other bullies, most notably China. But the Duterte has announced that he's going to put an end to that. Why did he do it? First of all, is it because he hates the United States? Well, no. The United States and the Philippines has an extremely close relationship and has had for many, many years. Yes, it started out kind of rough. I love my history. Get into that in a second, but I will tell you the reason why Duterte did this, well, at least what I've heard. He was mad because the United States denied a visa to an associate of Duterte's who fights the drug war. And of course, the U.S. and many other countries are not big fans of Duterte's war on drugs. Not that they don't think a war on drugs is necessary, but he plays rough, and he doesn't just slap the dealers, the drug traffickers on the wrist. He kills them. He doesn't play. And so I think, or I can't say I think, I've heard experts say that's probably the reason Duterte announced that he was going to cancel the agreement. He was just angry about that visa being denied. So be that as it may. Let's do a little homework or a little history lesson, if you will, and sum up the relationship between the United States and the Philippines, okay? It started off in a very rough start, of course. The U.S. defeated Spain, Spanish-American War, and liberated the Philippines, who had been under Spanish rule for like 400 years. But instead of just leaving again and saying, "Oh, you guys are free," no, we walked in there and took control and fought a war, and it was a bloody war, and took possession of the Philippines for a long, long time. Now, it got better from there. It didn't just, the United States is not an empire. Okay, I'll get into that in a second. But the United States has granted the Philippines their sovereignty officially in 1946 after World War II was completed. And then they've kind of scaled, lessened their military involvement in the Philippines little by little by little over the years. And I think it was 1993 or thereabouts when Mount Pinatubo blew up, that the Philippines basically said, okay, U.S., we love you, but, you really got to go. So we don't belong to you anymore. And our permanent residency militarily in the Philippines came to an end at that point. But the Visiting Forces Agreement came into being and was renewed once or twice, and that, our relationship economically, of course, and militarily has remained strong, and our relationship with the Philippines culturally has been extremely strong. We love Filipinos, and the feeling is mutual. It's a great relationship. Now, how great is that relationship? Well, World War II. Remember the Bataan Death March and the horrific acts of evil that the Japanese were guilty of in the Philippines and elsewhere. The United States, in liberating the Philippines in 1944-45, 15,000 American soldiers lost their lives and 48,000 were injured, and that's a rough estimate, of course. It's hard to narrow that down. Again, I want to reiterate this. The United States does not have an empire. If and when Duterte ends the Visiting Forces Agreement, it doesn't mean that the big bad bully, the U.S., is finally going to free the Philippines. That's a horrible, incorrect way to put it. That's just not the way it is. The United States, this is kind of shocking. We currently have over 200,000 troops in 144 countries in the world. Okay? But we're not an empire. We're there at their request to either protect them from evildoers or to help train their military. The United States, we've got we have our wrinkles historically, and every country does, by the way. So don't, I'm free to but I'm I acknowledge all the bad things the U.S. have done. But, every country has been guilty of something. The United States, though, has been and hopefully will continue to be the shining light on the hill, if you will, and not just militarily, but economically. I'm not sure what the dollar amount is in economic aid that we provide to the Philippines every year, but I'm guessing it's about $1 billion. We've also contributed $1.3 billion in military aid over the last 2 decades. So the United States isn't there just to be a bully keep people under our heel. That's not what we do. If you're in trouble, guess who's there? The first ones, and maybe the only ones to come help you. It's the United States. One of the reasons is the U.S. there is no American nationality per se, unless you want to talk about the American Indians, the native people, and even they came from somewhere. The United States is made up of people from every country on earth, and that's what makes it different. I'm not here to say, and shame on those who do say that, well, we're just better than they are. No, we're not. Our people are no better than anybody else. But our system of government is. You are far more free in the United States than you are anywhere else in the world, and you have far more, infinitely more opportunities to improve your lot in life in the United States than anywhere else. That's why we see the economic success in the United States. So anyhow, I don't want to toot our own horn. My aim in giving you all these little bits of history and facts is just to let you know that, we're not an empire. We're not here to hold you down. And that's certainly the case in our relationship with the Philippines. So when President Duterte says he's going to eliminate the visiting forces agreement, hey, that's his right. He's the leader of the Philippines, and those are the only people he should be concerned with. But I do want to say this. We're eager to and willing to come back whenever you need our help, the United States. And who do you need help from? What kind of fears, what kind of challenges are you going to have, or will you always have? Well, economic, of course, military in Mindanao. And guess who else? Yes, there is the big bad wolf is knocking on the door. And I have nothing against the Chinese people. Okay? Let's make that clear. It's the communist government that I don't like. And, if you do any homework, you wouldn't like them either. They're bullies. And look what's happening in the South China Sea. They're hurting the Philippines. Who's going to protect you against that and the economic damage that that's causing? Hopefully short of war, but the United States will and always be your closest ally. So who knows what the future holds in our relationship militarily with the Philippines. I don't know. Hopefully, that will stay strong. Economically, of course, it will always stay strong. Culturally, there is no closer agreement between countries, I don't think, than the United States and the Philippines. It's such a strong relationship, and I'm sure it will continue. And, I'm a fan of Duterte. He's his own man, though, and he doesn't carry the water for anybody except the Filipino people. So good for him. We'll keep you up to date if there's any changes on that front. That's it for this edition of Coffee with the Goose. I'm so glad you joined me for another show. We got many more to come, and many, many thanks to you folks who have subscribed. Look forward to a long future with this show and with the help of my great producer, Jude. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.